Good evening, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. Well, probably not see me, but just hear me. My name is Ronald, and tonight I will be giving you a little bit more, training on how to use the Raven CRx system for guidance. And in the chat, there will be the possibility to ask questions, and a colleague of mine will answer then the questions to you for you. So don't hesitate. If you have questions, just ask them in the chat. And yeah, I hope I am able to tell you a little bit about the system. Hopefully, everyone can hear me as well. All right. Tonight we're gonna kind of go through these topics in in a little bit of time. I do not know exactly how long it will take me, but we'll just go to the most important steps of the system and make it a little bit easier for you to work with our system. I will first go to, I think it's 1 or 2 slides, and then I will take you on an interactive way through our system. I have a demo set up right beside me, and then I will show you every step of the things that are displayed in here as well. And so these are kind of the things I was planning on going through tonight. So hopefully, we can do most of it. So for CRx, you have four main screens, let's say it like that. You have the start screen. That's what you get when you open up the system. Usually it's there with a maps background where you can see all your fields in pink. Then there's the main menu. You get there if you press the little gear symbol on the bottom. You open up the main menu where you can change settings. Then you have the job screen. That's probably where you'll be spending most of the time with our system, where you are in your job and you can have all kind of widgets and all that kind of stuff. And then you have the UT where all ISO implements are shown. So that's kind of, in a short, the four main screens from CRx. And also for CRx, there's kind of, in general, 3 ways of working, let's say it like that. And the first one on the left here, it says quick AB line. So that's a real, easy way of working with the system. So you have you want to start mowing, for instance. You don't want to have field boundaries, just a quick AB line, quick job, and then you can get going right away. So that's what we call the quick job or quick AB line, but you can also do other type of lines, of course. Then we have the second, a little more advanced, let's say it like that. You create a field boundary. I will show you as well on how to create a field boundaries. We have a couple of ways to get a field boundary into our system. And then you can use the field boundaries as a reference line for your guidance. So for instance, in this example, we have line Q. Then we can use line Q as a guidance line for our system. And then the third option, that's working with operations plans. So that's with tram lines and headlands, and that's a little more advanced. You have to think a little bit on what you're planning. And personally, I always use potatoes as an example. So potatoes, usually, well, of course it can differ, but let's say you plant on 3 meters, you ridge on 3 meters, then you do some, let's say, holland mowing on 3 meters whatsoever. You do all kind of basic jobs on 3 meters, let's say it like that, and then you have a spreader, so fertilizer spreader, and a sprayer on 33 meters both. Then you can use for all these operations, so for the spraying, for the fertilizing, the planting, the ridging, all that kind of stuff, you can use the operations plan every time. So yeah, it's a little more complex, but it's also, you can do a little bit more compared to the second method. So now this is kind of an overview, and now I will take you on to my demo setup, and there I will show you how you can do that in CRx. Now the entire screen is what I have, my demo setup, what's in front of me. So as you can see, this is kind of what you start. You see the maps, street maps on the background, and then you see some buttons here, quick job button right here on the bottom, and then you have the field button to show all your fields on the right side. And as you can see, at the moment, I do not have any fields yet. So later on, I will show you a little bit more on that as well. So now we go to the cross. And normally, what's the first thing that you do when you want to go do a job in the field? You select a machine and a tractor. You never go without a tractor to the field because that's a little bit strange. So to get that going, we go here, we go to the main menu. And in this menu, you can do all kinds of settings. First thing I'm going to do is go to region settings, and I'm going to change the language because I think that makes it a little bit more easier for you as well, to English. So now it's a little bit more universal. So now I've quickly changed the language from Dutch to English. And there's of course a lot more languages available. So to get back, you first go to the machine garage. That's on the left side up top here. So I push machine garage. And now it will open my machine garage. And as you can see, I do not have a tractor selected nor a machine. So the first thing I do is push this plus, and then I get the option to configure a machine and an implement. So first I have to create a new machine. So create a new tractor, push create new machine. And then I get an option to choose, for instance, a traditional self-propelled, articulated, and so on kind of machine. Well, since I just want to have a tractor, I just call it, in this case, give it an easy name, training, tractor. So now I just give it the name of your tractor and the model. So for instance, case Puma, and then the number 130 or something, just give it. Then we go here in the bottom, next, and then it'll want the value, so the height of the antenna. And as you can see, that's taken, so value set in UT. What does that mean? When I go to here, we go to the UT for the isobus machines. Oh, it wants to load, so I'll get back to that in a bit. Takes a little bit time, don't want to wait. So now it takes over the values from the RS1. So this is for the height. We go to the next. It wants to know the offset from the center is also taken from the UT. And it also wants to know the position of the receiver compared to the rear axle. So the distance from the rear axle to the receiver. And those values are all taken from the UT. And that's from the profile calibrated into the RS1. So now, if we go next, the system also would like to know the distance from the rear axle to the front hitch, from the rear axle to the 3-point hitch, or from the rear axle to the 3-point hitch, and then to the draw, let's say like that, toe point. And these values can't be taken from the RS1 because those are not in the RS1. You have to measure them yourselves, and these ones are very important for proper section control. So for the system to know when exactly should the fertilizer spreader start spreading, or when, and more accurate these values are, the more accurate your section control will be. So these you have to measure yourself, and these are very important. So then we go to the green check mark. So now here up top, you can see that we have configured the training tractor in this case. And if you just push here in the middle, you can change. As you can see, I have a long list of machines that tractors that I've created that are in my system. And that way, if I would put my CR12 into another terminal or another tractor right now, I could change from T7, for instance, to T8. So the system knows exactly what tractor it's in and what measurement it has to take into account. So now we have set up our tractor, and now we're gonna mount equipment on the rear in a 3-point hitch. So as you can see, there's a long list of implements, but these are all virtual implements. It's really important to know these are not, let's say they are not isobus machines. So if I have, for instance, a weeder here, it doesn't do any ISO tasks. So it doesn't lift up my weeder if it's an isobus reader. And that's really important. I will show you later on how to work with isobus machines and how you can distinguish them in the list. But these are all, virtual machines, let's say it like that. So what we're gonna do, I have a list, but that's not fun. I'm gonna create a new one. So create new equipment, and we'll call it a seeder. Seeder. And then my seeder will have a total width of 3 meters. And please pay attention to the units. You can switch to centimeters, but that's very important. That's also with all other units you have to fill in, pay attention to it, because I've seen it a lot of times that, for instance, centimeters were entered while the system expected meters. So if you put 3 centimeters, or you think 3 centimeters, and then it's meters, or the other way around, the system might do some strange things. So please pay attention to the units. So we have total width of 3 meters, and then I will give it 4 virtual sections. So we go further, and now we can define the width of each section. So for instance, if one section is a little bit wider or one is smaller, I can change that as well, but I won't change anything here for now. And then we go further, and then it wants to know, so the distance from the 3-point hitch to the working point of the machine. Now I'm just going to give in, for instance, 70 centimeters. Again, this is also important for proper section control. Also, we can, for instance, if we have an old bead seeder that usually has an offset to the right or to the left, we can also give in, let's say I want to have 50 centimeters to the right, and then it will take that into account as well. Just an example, you can also go to the left. It doesn't matter, but it takes that into account for your guidance. So now we go push the green button. And here you can see that now my seeder is connected. If I am not paying attention and I say I haven't disconnected my seeder in CRx, and now I want to go spreading, then I still have the seeder there. So it's really important to have the desired implements. It is possible to have multiple implements, but in this case, it will take the guidance width of the widest implement. So pay attention to that only the machines that you are currently working with, doing the job with are in the list here. So front mounted, rear mounted. Also good to know is that the cross for CRx means deactivate. So if I push the cross here, it deactivates the old spreader. But if I push the red button here, it's a waste bucket. But if I push the waste bucket, it will delete it. And that's for everything. I will show you again later as well. Waste bucket is deleting and a cross is deactivating. And the pen and the paper, that's always editing. So now we have a tractor, we have a seeder, and now we are ready. You can see it here as well. We are ready to start a job. So now we go back. We push the green button here. And then we are in our start screen again. So as I explained shortly earlier, there's 3 ways of working. And first I will discuss the quick job, quick AB line. So if you want to do quick AB, then you gotta push the button right on the bottom here. This is for quick AB. So if I push it right now, it will open up a menu where the grower is already filled in, the farm and the field. We always work with the grower farmer field. And then also the job name. But this is mainly for like if you want to do something real quick, mowing or whatsoever. But I think it pay a little bit attention to how you fill in your grower and your farm if it's possible, because that will also make your administration in the end a little easier if you want to do administrative things with it. If you just want to give gas, go on the long run, then it doesn't matter. You can continue here. So that's what we're going to do now. I just want to give gas, AB line and go. So we go further. For now, this doesn't matter so much. This is mainly for isobus machines. And I will show you that later. It's also, of course, possible to say what kind of coverage you want here. But for now, I'll just leave it. And then we go further here on the bottom to the next step. And then we will get into the job screen. So as you can see, I hope my driving skills are okay tonight. My demo is a little sensitive. But as you can see, I'm driving around and apologies for the lagging, but that's because I'm streaming off my screen, and on my screen it's not lagging, but due to the cable going from my terminal, it's a bit laggy. So this is kind of the main screen. And as you can see, there's all kinds of widgets in the terminal, in the screen. And these, you can change them. I will show you in a bit how you can change them to whatever you like. But these 3 on the left side and these 4 on the right side, they will always be there. No matter what, if you delete all widgets, these 4 will always be there. Well, these on the left side are for zooming out and zooming in. And this is for the way the icon is displayed. So if you look from the top or from the back, and on the right side, starting on the top, here is where you can change the widget layout. Here you can fill in, or here you can scout objects. So like if I want to say something like there's a well or something, or there's a big hole, or there's a tree in the field, I can just put a flag up, and then the next time I come back, I know exactly where I have to pay attention. And the third one is for your guidance lines. And the fourth one is for your layers. So if you have one, it's display the direction you've driven in or the velocity and so on. So first we're gonna start, because it was a quick job. We want to have AB line. I push the line button and then I push, in this case, I select AB straight. So now we push the A button and then I start driving forward. And as you can see, as I'm turning, oh, it wants me to do accept it. And as I am turning, the line is also moving with my position. And oh, if we go look from the top here, we can see it a little bit better. So if I go to the left, the direction of the line is also moving with me. So now I'm at the point where I want to be, and it's good to know that the minimum distance for the AB line is 10 meters. So yeah, that's good enough, because I have 132 meters, as you can see here. My AB line is fine by me. I push B, then I can, if I wanted to change the B button, so if I want to change my position for B, I can do it now if I wanted to, but I don't. And then I push the green button on the bottom, and now I have created an AB line. And now when I move to the line, I am able to start my guidance. So now we have created an AB line. Real easy, and now I can just go and mow and drive around. All right, so now we have an AB line. We come to the headland. Even though it's an easy task, not too complicated, I still want to have an additional line. What do? I want to, in this case, I want to create a plus. I go to the line option again here on the side. As you can see, now straight line is selected. But if I go here, I want to give it another name, because otherwise later on I do not know what the name was again. So now we push the pen and paper, and I change the name to straight line. So now I know. Normally, of course, you will give a name whatever suits you, across the neighbors, alongside the ditch, whatever. But now I just do it easy, straight line, accept it, and now I have named my line straight line, AB straight, and it's called straight line. So now, like I said, I want to create an A plus line. I push the cross, so that means deactivate and not delete. And you will see it as well. If I push it, it says confirm clear guidance line. It doesn't delete anything. Now, if I push this green button, my line is still there, but I cannot see it at the moment because I did not select it. So now I turn around. I select A plus, because I want to do a line based on the heading. And now if I know the direction, I can already give it. So if I say I want to drive, so now I've pushed the button here, and now I'm able to change the direction to whatever I like. So if I say I want to drive on 280, so that's 280 degrees on the compass. I can give that in, or I can, if I do not change it, just take the direction I'm currently standing. So now I've created an A plus line. I push the green button again. And now I have my A plus line. I can drive on that as well. So now I come to the other line again. And first I will show you a little bit the long way. And then I will show you an easy way how to switch lines. Because now I want to switch lines from my A plus line to my AB line. So how do I do that? I go here to the side again. I deactivate my A+ line. I go to load, because in load it will show you all the guidance lines in this field. And especially at the moment, it says enable GFF filter. Later on, I will show you if we disable that, if I have more fields and lines, you can also use the lines created in other fields. But for now, I'll just leave it. And then I wanted to go, so I had my A+ line, and now I wanted to go to my straight line. So now you can see I've loaded the straight line again. And that way I can change lines. Well, as you can see, that's maybe a little complicated because you have to push a lot of buttons. So that's why we come to the next thing. I go to the widgets because we have a nice widget for that to switch lines. So we go to the widgets, and that's the top one there. If I push it, you will see a list of widget profiles. And as you can see, this one, Ronnie, is created by myself. And the other 4, sprayer, implement steering, default, and crop, are already in the system by default. It's possible to change them to whatever you like, delete them, you can do whatever you want. So if I, for instance, now select Ronnie, you will see that's my own profile. I do not have any nonsense, or nonsense, depends on what you want to do. There are, of course, people who just want to have a V line and the engage button, nothing else, because the rest is all too complicated for that. But that's fine. You can create a profile for that. Call it worker A, for instance. Name the profile to his name. So now I've selected something else. If I want to have the default layout, well, this is what the default layout roughly looks like. So with this, it's possible to create your own profile, but if I want to change the profile, I just push the pen and paper on the side, and then it'll give me the options, the possibilities to change the name, to change the position. As you can see here, I'm now moving this one. You can change the widget profile to whatever you like and to whatever you want to see. So if I push this button now again, so I've activated, as you can see, the layout edit. If I push it, then it also enables me to move this button all the way to the right side if I want to. How do I get out of it? I just push this button again. The menu will open and it will give me the widget list again. Then I can push the cross again. And now I'm out of the editing mode. I can also create a new widget profile. So for instance, I have already, I want to create a widget profile for each of my workers or for each of my tasks. For instance, if I want to see certain widgets when I'm reading or spraying, I can add my own profile here. So let's say weed. And now I can add different widgets, as you can see. So there's a lot possible with the widgets, and you can change it to whatever you like. And there is a lot of widgets, and I won't discuss all of them, but there are a couple of widgets that I would like to discuss right now. So I'm going to go to the default profile for that. I'm going to open up the widget by pushing the pen and paper. And now I have the list of widgets. And as I said and showed, the method for changing lines was a little bit complicated. And that's why there's this nice widget called Easy Swap. It's already enabled, but I'll just disable it and enable it so you know what it looks like. If I disable it, it's gonna go away. And then when I enable it, it'll pop up right back here. And I'll drag it to the bottom because I want to have it in the bottom. So now I have the easy swap, and I will show you how to work with that because I think it's a real nice feature, a nice widget that we have. So as you can see, it'll currently also tell me which line I am on. So at the moment, I'm on the straight line, as you can see. So now by pushing this or this button, since we only have 2 lines, so now I push it, I can easily change my line. So now it's on unnamed A+ heading. Then we can go there. I come to the headland. Boop, 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 boop. Then I can push this button again and I will go to my straight line. So now I only have 2 lines. So that's easy. But if you have 10, 15, whatever how many lines, it might get a little complicated to go through all the lines every time you want to switch lines. So that's why if we're gonna go and drive again, I have to look a little bit to the where it is. I'm not so sure anymore. Where is it now? Yep. So as you can see, it will now also tells me recommended unnamed A+ heading. So if I now push onto the recommended, it'll swap my line. It'll change my line quickly. So it'll kind of, yeah, it measures the direction you're going in, and based on that, it will give you a recommended line for you to take. So that way you can easily, with one click, change lines. It's of course also possible, as you can see, to do that with the auto function. So now I have the auto function enabled. As you can see, now it's green. So now when I'm turning around, at some moment it will detect the direction of my straight line again. Oh, and now you can see that it will automatically change lines. Up, up. However, as you can see, this takes a little bit. This takes roughly up to 5 seconds because you don't want the system to directly change lines when you go into that direction, because then it might be too early or too late. So yeah, it takes a little bit time for the system to change the lines. So keep that in mind as well when you activate the auto option. And also keep in mind, it does it based on the direction. So if you have 2 lines that are roughly the same direction, it could be that when you are in a slightly wrong position, it takes the undesired one. So keep that in mind as well. That it could also be possible to just do it yourself. So now I've enabled the auto option. It could be a possibility depending on what you want and what you like, if you want to enable that or not. So now I disable it again, then I turn around. Now I just push recommended, not auto, not anything else, just push here, recommended, and then it will change the line for me to the other one. So that's way easier. So that's the easy swap. Please remember that. That's way easier than deactivating the line, go to load the line, and so on. So now we created 2 lines, and then it could be that in the end, or at the start, you created a line, but it's like this. The left line is, so as you can see, the right line here is already the field border, so I can't go there. If I go there, I'll be driving over the fence. And if you go over to the line that's currently red, I'm having like half a working width uncovered. So that's not what we want. Then we have these two. If I go to the widget, I will look up the widget name again. That's called line calibration. So calibrate line. And then it's called nudge, line nudging. Just move these ones here. So these are the two. So now, like I said, I want to calibrate my line. So I push this button and now it will calibrate it onto the center here, as you can see. And what you will also see is that the nudge widget shows me how much the line has nudged compared to the original line. So that's real nice to know, because then you can keep that in mind as well, or as we're going to go to, you can set it to a desired distance. I hope you can see it, but in the bottom here, and that's also what this one has and this one has, there's a little edge folded inside. That's also for this one. So it means that it's an interactive, let's say it like that, widget. As you can see, if I push the widget once, I just push it, a menu will open and you will see some arrows going, big arrows and small arrows left and right. If I hold this one, this nudge widget, the nudge widget, if I hold it, a menu will pop up. And this menu will give me the option to set my nudges. So my small nudges, I can set it to 20 centimeters or 50, or I can even set it to meters, depending on what you want to do. And I can also do a big nudge. So now I want to do my big nudge, 50 centimeters. So every time I push the big nudge button, this one, it will go to the side, to the left or the right, 50 centimeters. But I can also say I just want to nudge 200 centimeters compared to the original to the right. And then it will also shift my line to the right. And I can also do that in meters. I can also reset it. So if I want to have it to 0 again, and I can also center it again. So if you just hold that menu, it will open up and you will have different options in nudging your line. So I just want to have 150, have a working with. And now I have a nudged line. So now if I push the big button here, it will nudge 50 centimeters. And that's what you will also see. Now it's 100. Now if I push it twice, it will go to the 200 and so on. So with those widgets, you can nudge guidance lines the way you want to. If I want to create another line, I will have to deactivate my guidance line. But I have my line nudged and I don't want to lose that. So you will see what will happen. I will show you where to find that option. If I now disable it, a menu pops up and it gives me the option to override the original unnamed A+ line. It will give me the option to save it as a new line, or I can just ignore everything and discard it. So I just save it as a new line in this case. And now it'll ask me to deactivate the guidance line. So now I have the original line and I have the original line plus 200 centimeters. If we go to load, you will see that as well. Unnamed A+. And now I have the line I just created. How do I get there? Or how do I get that pop-up if it's not enabled? You go to the menu, so the gear, you go to job settings, and then you have the enable nudged guidance line management pop-up. You can disable that if you want, you can enable it. So that's enable nudged, this option. So now we spoke a little bit on how to create lines and so on. I just saw a question on how to do the round trip and the last pass functions. I will show you that later because for the round trip, I need a field boundary. So now I've been driving around in my car, but then my tractor, no, I've been driving around just kind of without anything going on. And normally you kind of want to know where you have been driving. And that's where this big master switch is for. And that's what will happen as well. Now it's red, but now I push it and it will turn green. So now my implement will start drawing coverage and I will be able to see where I have been driving. If I push it again, it will turn red and so on. I can also push this button again and then a menu will pop up. And then it will give me the option to activate the master switch, for instance, if I start steering. So as soon as I enable steering, the master switch will activate as well. And it's also to have auxiliary inputs. So take a signal from the hitch or whatever kind of it requires a 0 to 12 volt signal. And then we can, for instance, if the hitch is going up, the master switch will deactivate, and if the hitch is going down, the master switch will activate. You can also do multiple signals, and if I do require all on, then I need, for instance, as an example, I need to have end steering enabled, and I need to have the hitch down before the master switch will activate. It's just an example. There's a lot of possibilities in that as well. So now if I do steering, you will see that the on-screen option is disabled and steering is enabled. And now you will also see this little lock. And it means that no matter what I do, if I push it, I am not able to disable the master switch. I'm only able to do that as soon as steering is deactivated. So if you ever want to enable or disable the master switch, but you can't, just hold it a little longer and see what control inputs are required. Then you know how can I activate or deactivate it. That's something to keep in mind if you see the log, if you want to start drawing coverage, but you do not know how, or you are not able to because of the log, just hold on and you see, oh, steering, for instance. Now I disable the steering and then it automatically go to on screen. So now I am able to, by just pushing it on the screen, start drawing coverage. Well, like I said, then we go to the next features I want to discuss shortly. If we go here, I can do a scout feature and then I'm driving in the field. I want to say, hey, there's a point of interest. I can say, where do I want to have my recording point? And I will explain a little bit more later on the recording point. But for now, I'll just click somewhere and then I can say, I want to create I have to create a line. Let's say like the tree. I say create recording point, and then every time I come back in this job, I will see where my tree is. So that's just a good thing to know. And about the layers, I will get back later. Because for that, I need to have drawn a little coverage, and I will come back with a bigger implement. So now we've discussed a little bit on the quick jobs and the most important widgets for now. Of course, there's always more widgets. As you can see, there's a lot more, but for now, to keep it a little short, because I could talk on it for hours and hours, I will just continue with the rest. So we have our job, and to get out of the job, we just push the green button, and then it'll show me confirm close job. Push the green button, and now we are out of the job. So now we get to the second, a more advanced, let's call it like that, way of working. So based on field boundaries. And in that, again, there are multiple options. So I'll first go through the, for me, easy one, because we can do create field boundaries in CRx, also in two ways, with corner points and with a quick recording. That's what we call it. I'll show you that in a bit as well, but I'm gonna do the easier one first, and that's with a field boundary that's drawn in on the computer. So I think it's one or two. I think one field boundary that's on my computer already, and I've put it onto a USB stick, and now I will plug it into my CR12 so we can load that field. In order to do that, we go to the main menu, and then we go to the file manager. So that's where all your data is stored and where you can find all your data for importing and exporting. So we go to the file manager, and now you will see on the left side here all your files and type of files that you have on your CR12, and in here you will see the actual files, and you can sort it based on the grower or the farm of the field. So if you have 500 fields, you can say I only want to display the fields of farm 1 or farm 2 and so on. Or if you know already which field you have, you can say I only want to display the data of field A. Then you can say I want to select the data of field A. You can copy it here, and then you can copy it onto a USB stick to use on another terminal or wherever you want to go to. So here we have the data that's on the CR12. As you can see here, it says local, so that means on the CR12. So if I push that drop-down menu, I get local SC1 USB, and I want to go to my USB. And there you can see that I have a whole list of data with everything. And in this case, I just want to have my ISO XML. I want to copy it. And now I'm copying my data from my USB. So that's great. So now I have copied my data from my USB. And now you will also see that I have a field displayed in my street map. So that's real nice. But I can also show it to you as an example. If I want to go into that field right now, so I just click on it, it'll show me my field. And now if I push this button, I get the option to start field recording. Well, but I already have my field recording. I can do operations planning, but I can also do a new job. So I just loaded in my field from a USB, and if I go to new job right away, start, you will see that the field is not there. I know this sounds a bit strange, but this is just some good information for you to know. If we go back, because we need to kind of finalize, let's say it like that, the field for CRx. So now, if I select my field, what I do is I just push on the field, go to the next button, and then I go to operation planning. And then in the operations planning, I go to pre-planning. And that's where I finalize my field for the system. So as you can see, I have C, B, A, all corner points are there in the system. And if for some reason not all corner points are there, it's also possible to add another one. Unfortunately, oh no, well, so now all my corner points are there, so I'm not going to do that. But in a bit, when I create the field myself, I will show you how to do that. But it's also possible to change the positions of the corner points if I want to, and so on. And if we continue here, then you will see that the system now creates the field boundary lines based on the corner points we just created. So now you'll see A, F, E, D, C. Those are all guidance lines I can later on use. And if I want to, I can say I want to have, because A, in my opinion, is straight line. I can also say I want to have all the lines straight. Now it's not so noticeable, but when you have a really curved line and you straighten it out, you will really see that it will be a straight line instead of a curved line. What's also possible is to join lines, and I will also show that in a bit as well. But for now, we'll just leave it like this. My field's created, and now I push the green button again when my field is fully defined. CRx and I agree over the field. And now if I select the field again, go to the next page or next step, do a new job, push the button right next and next, because for now this doesn't matter so much. I have my guidance lines, and now it will ask me, hey, what line do you want to use? A, B, C, D, E, or F. And as you can also see, it's not really noticeable, but I've drawn a line in here as well. It's called to neighbor. Normally it will show you baseline, E, F, and so on, but it will also show you the guidance line you want to be driving on. Like I said before, it's also possible to drive on a guidance line created in another field. However, now the GFF filter is enabled, so it will only show me the lines created in this field. But if I just push this or disable this option, it will also show me the straight line, A plus line that I've just created in my previous job, as you can see. So I would be able to use those again in here as well. However, for now, I'm just going to leave that. I'm just going to select line, so baseline C as my guidance line. And as you can see, I'm a little bit far off the field. I'm just going to go speed and power, full speed ahead to my field. So now in my field, and as you can see, the first guidance line created is half a working width from my border. So I'm starting right, so the outside of my machine is exactly at the border as how I have drawn it. So now, as you can see, it also show me again the desired or the recommended line, and it also show me all the possibilities that are there in the Easy Swat widget on that as well. So now if I come to the headland, I'll just go full speed ahead. And if I then turn around onto the headland, it will also show me line B. Oh, I'm just gonna go a little less speed. My throttle is a little sensitive. My foot's too heavy tonight. If I now select baseline B, it will automatically change the lines, and then I'm able to continue on line B. So on this way, I can use the outside, so the field boundary, as my guidance line. So now we got the question in the chat, how do I use the round trip? So therefore I disable the current guidance line. Oh, I shouldn't. It wasn't necessary, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then I'm going to push round trip. And what the round trip does, the name kind of says it already. It does a round trip from the outside of the field. So at the moment I have 6 lines, so 6 times 3 meters. So 80 meters will be going around the field. So now you can also say, I want to start with an offset of 3 meters. So one pass not seeded at the moment. Could be that you want to, I can give an offset, and then to really work with it, I have to push here field 1. So now I have 6 lines, field 1, and then it'll start. As you can see here, it has drawn 6 lines around the field. And as you can see here, it's taken, because the corner point I've set was one corner, but in reality it was more of a, not such, it was a little bit stumped off corner. But what you will also see sometimes when the corners are too sharp, or that it will, like you can see here as well, this is not a feasible corner. You can, you have to go back and forth to go on to line direction A again. But it's possible to use this as well, because then you can just turn around yourself. If you're mowing, you go here, and then you can turn around yourself and continue on the long stretch as well. It's a possibility, but this is what round trip does. It just creates an X numbers of contour lines. Then what last pass does, last pass creates a guidance line, as you can see here, based on your last laid coverage. So if I slowly try to drive forward, so for instance, it's a lot used in spraying. You just start on the outside. Hopefully, because, let's try. So if I were to, now I have last pass enabled, speed up a little bit. Now when I come back, it has, it has created a guidance line that have working with away from my previous created coverage. So that's what last pass does. It creates a guidance line based on your last created coverage. So now I've shown you how to load a field from, for instance, a USB stick. And then I suggest we do a short little break until 8:05, so roughly 5 minutes. And then we continue on how to create field boundaries yourself in CRx. And I'll also then discuss the operations plan and the ISOBUS settings. But I suggest we do a short little break right now. Quick break. I hope everyone could have grabbed something to drink, fill the glasses again. Now we're going to continue with the creation of fields, and therefore I'm just going to drive a little bit away from where I'm currently at. So I'm just going to start here. And then I'm going to go to my fields here again on the sides. And then I'm going to create a new field. I'll select my own grower, myself. I select my farm, it's the test farm. And then I give the name a proper field. Give it something that fits you best. Call it at the neighbors, at that neighbors, or whatsoever. We're going to continue here. And then it'll ask me on the field recording, because like I said, I want to create my field in CRx. I do not import it from the computer. So go to field recording, and then we have two options in CRx. We can do it based on corner flags. So in every corner of the field, I set a flag, and then between those flags, it'll draw a straight line, or I record a curve in between. I'll show you how to do that. Or we do quick recording. So then it will just draw the boundary as how I'm driving it. So if I go to quick recording, select it, and then we get to the scouting mode. And as you can see, this here is the tractor again, and this blue cross is our recording point. So that's also here, recording point. Put this away. Fine. That's my recording point. So if I push here, recording point, I can set it to wherever I like. So if I want to have it onto the center of the tractor, I'm not able to change it, but I can also set it to the right side of my implement, depending on what the measurements I've given in. So I can put a reference point wherever I like it. So it could be there are customers that create a little device that they use to record field boundaries, and then they can set it exactly to where the device hits the ground or whatsoever. So they can record the fields as accurate as possible. So I accept it. So now my recording point is there. And as soon as I start recording, so tap here to start recording, you will see that it'll start blinking red. So that means we are recording, and as you can see, there's a blue line. I'll just zoom out a little bit, so then you're able to see it a little bit better. So there's a blue line, dotted line coming behind the tractor. So as you can see, as I'm moving around, the field boundary is also moving around. So if you're gonna do this, make sure to get it as accurate as possible, that you drive as straight as possible, and then do not do anything else when you're doing it, because otherwise, as you can see, the lines are also coming along. So now, for instance, I get to a point where I can't continue or whatsoever. you name it. There's a tree in the way, but my boundary is still straight, and I don't want to mess up my boundary or whatsoever. I can just press here, then it will pause the line. So then I can drive around the obstacle or whatsoever. And then as soon as I'm past that object or whatsoever, or the corner, I can just push here and then it will draw a straight line between the last point I've driven and the point I have started recording again. So now I can do it as well. I go around the corner, for example. I'm trying to get a straight corner. And now I continue again. So I'm speeding up a little bit at the moment, and as you can see, my driving gets less accurate. So this is the field I now created. So now I pause again to try to get a rectangular corner, or I'm speeding up a little bit. So as you can see here, these lines, they are not straight. They are exactly how I've driven them, very curvy. And as I'm getting close to the corner point, as you can see on the bottom right, I've enabled the option close automatically. So now when I get near the starting point, it closes the field automatically. And now I have created my field boundary using a quick recording. So what I can do now is go. So now we've created the field. I can push accept here. And now if I get out of this menu, I can go to operations planning. Oh, just oh. I seem to have little. Well, all right. And then, so now I've created my field boundary. So then I go to operations planning again, because we have to go to the pre-planning again. So now I push pre-planning. And as you can see, the system has some more difficulties in detecting my nicely created corner points. So now I would really like to change some of these corner points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a corner point, and then I'm going to add a corner point here. So now you see that radius of that slider with this. Or I can adjust the radius with this slider. So as I set it larger, it will decrease the radius and it will get the corner point exactly where I want it. It's also possible to move it with this button or with these buttons, but be careful because these buttons move the corner point north, south, east, or west, and not in the direction of the guidance lines. So yeah, be careful with that. I usually say try to prevent doing that. Oh, no, it's go away. No, no, apologies. This is better. So I usually say prevent moving with that because it usually, yeah, you can't get the desired results, but it's possible. So, but at the moment, I think my corner point's good. I push the green button. So now I've added my corner point there, and I also want to have a corner point there. So I push, add a new corner point, click there. And as you can see, well, depending on my radius, where it will put my corner point. So if I increase it, I want to have a straight corner. So this is how I like it. So now it's created a corner point there, and I want to delete in this case because I do not agree with it. I'm going to delete corner point A. So now I have 4 corner points. When we continue, it'll detect my lines. And now I can also say, hey, they are curved, but I want to have them straight. So if I all straighten them out, you will see what a difference that makes. It will just draw a straight line between each corner point. So that's what I'll just leave B and D as a curved line, and A and C I will have a straight line. And now I can drive on those curved lines as well as on those straight lines if I open up a new job. So that's the first possibility of creating a field boundary. Now we're going to go to the second possibility. Then I'm driving further again. Up, 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 up. So therefore, then I'm going to add another field. And I call this field, just to keep it easy, corners. As I'm going to create a field based on corner points. So now I'm going to go to field recording. I'm going to record corner flags. And now you kind of have the same options. We can set the recording point in here again. But now I want to be a little bit closer for now. So I'll leave the recording point. And now I just turned into the first corner of my field. And now I'm just going to place a corner flag. So now a yellow flag will pop up, and that means that it's a corner point. So when I zoom out again and I start driving, you will see a red dotted line being drawn. I'll just go from the top view because that makes it a little easier for displaying right now. So, and again, this works kind of similar as an AB line. It will follow my direction. It will draw a straight line, but it will follow my direction. So if I move around, the straight line will move around with me. So now I come to the second corner and I place a corner flag, and we'll see a second yellow flag popping up, and you will also see that my red dotted line is now turned blue. So that means that it's defined, fully defined. And it won't change no more. So now we go around the corner. And now I'm gonna start with a curve because my field doesn't have straight edges all the way. It has a curved boundary, curved field side as well. So that's why I'm gonna start a curve right now. And yeah, don't start a curve right away as soon as you place a corner flag. Just drive a little bit forward. Now, so now I have a little, yeah, maybe, but I just have a little bit distance from your last set corner point, start a curve, and now a green flag will pop up. And a green flag, that's the start or the end of a curve. So now it's again as a quick recording, it will create the boundary exactly as how I'm driving it with every little hobble and bubble that's all in there. So yeah, if you want to do it very accurate, especially since you are working with these corner points, don't drive too fast because then you are making mistakes quicker compared to when you're driving just a little bit slower. So now I have created my curved area. I stop my curve again, and then I can continue with my straight lines again. So now I'm in the third corner. Oh, wrong button. Place corner flag. And now I have another curve. Start the curve again. I'll just drive the curve to here. Stop curve. And then my last corner point will be here for now. And then when I say place corner flag, and now when I close the recording, so I quit the recording, it will automatically draw a line between here and there. So between my first and my last corner point. And then that way it will close the field. So now I push here. And as you can see, it will ask you confirm end recording. I say yes, and you will see a line being drawn here. And now the field is complete. So now I have the option to add another boundary. I personally do not recommend that. It's possible, but the best way would be to create for each field its own boundary and not two boundaries in one field. I can go to the pre-planning, so that's where we fully define the field. And it's also possible to add a guidance line. So if I want to, for instance, later on do an operations plan, and I want to have an operations plan based on an A+ line or an AB line, I can, before I go to my pre-planning, already add a guidance line. So if I know in what direction or along which side I want to have an extra line, I can already do that right now. So that's possible. Or I can go to the home screen, but we are going to go to the pre-planning. So this is our field boundary. Now we go to the next page, and now it'll show you all the corners we just created. As you can see now that not all corners can be edited. They can be deleted, but not edited. And that's because F and G and D and C are curve points. Like I said, the green flags, and you can't change those. You can only change the yellow flags. However, at the moment, I'm fine with the way my field's looking. All corner points are there. I go to next. And now I have the same lines. And like I said, I can straighten them out. So in this case, I think I just want to see straight. I don't care. But I want to leave F as a curved line. However, I don't want to be switching lines. So when I go from E to F and from F to G and so on, I don't want to switch lines every time. I want it to be one line. I can then push here, join lines. And then I can say F, G, and E. And then if I push here, it'll create one guidance line of it. Again, I can straighten it out. Or if I think later on, oh, maybe I don't want to have it as a splitted line anymore, I can, or as a joined line, sorry, you can also split it again. But I also want to join lines for the bottom, B, C, and D. So now I have 4 lines again. Push green. So now, as you can see as well, so before we got the pre-planning was blue, and operations plan was grayed out. And now you see we finished pre-planning, so it's green. And the operations plan is now blue, so it's possible to create an operations plan. So what's this operations plan then? Because now I already discussed on how to work with, so the first two possibilities on working with CRx, so the quick job and driving or working based on reference lines, so from field boundaries. So now we're going to go to the operations plans. And with an operations plans, I always say, call it the crop and the year, what you're doing. So if you're doing potatoes, call it, I'm gonna call that as well, potatoes. And then, potatoes, forgot it, 24. So I will be using this plan that I'm going to create the entire season for my potatoes. And what does that mean? So I will create a SWOT with, so my potato planter, my ridger, my home topper, everything is on 3 meters. And then I will use, every time I will use the same plan. So I say here, you define you're working with of the main machines, let's call it like that. Then we have the options to set up tram lines if we want to use tram lines. So now we can say tram lines, and there you get the option to set up the type of sprayer, and if you want to use extra width, how many swaths there should be from the first, so from the field boundary, the reference line, to the first tram line. So now at the moment I have a sprayer width of 33 meters, and then it will automatically say, well, 5 swaths to the headland. Of course, I can change this, and then between each tram line there will be 10 swaths. So if we go here and then we say create, the first region that I select will be the main region we are working in. So if I say A, and as you can see right now, it will create a pattern where the yellow lines are my tram lines. So now if we go back, because now I've had 33 meters. So if now my sprayer and my fertilizer spreader are not 33 but 30 meters, and I still leave it attached to the swath pattern, my tram lines do not match with my number of swaths. So now I say 30 meters. So then, because now here's 12 meters, 3, and then another 12, it doesn't match. So that's when I say detach from swath pattern, and now I have to fill in null or 0. So 4 should be 0 in this case, because otherwise it will add 4 extra swaths plus my half a sprayer width before my first tram line. So as you can see, now I'm spraying with 30 meters detached from swath pattern, and 0 swaths to the headland, should actually be extra swaths. So now if I continue and I have selected region A, you will see that the tram line is in between working swaths. Whereas in the previous situation, where it was 33 meters and it was attached to the pattern, a tram line was on a working line. Let's say it like that. So with this option, it's possible to use sprayers where the working width doesn't match with the pattern when you're working, for instance, with 3 meters. So now we go back, we say tramline setup, we reattach it again, because if we have 33 meters, it's then also possible to add some extra width in the tram lines. So I can say as you can see here, I've add some width on the left side, and I can add some width on the right side. So there will be a working pass, and then on the right side and the left side and the right side of the pass, there will be 1 meter extra. So when is this used? This is, for example, it is a very nice example in the Netherlands where they have tulip fields and then they plant on small tires. So think 38 centimeters. And when they come back and they want to go spraying, they don't want to drive in between the beds on small tires. They want to have a little bit extra width between the beds in the tram line to be able to drive on wider tires. So with this way, it's possible to drive on wider tires for spraying. So of course, also when you, for instance, do potatoes, and you don't want to have, because when you're doing potatoes in the tram lines, you can do the cultivators down. So then there's 2 paths of 75 centimeters that are not planted. And you are, for instance, you want to spray on tires that are 60 centimeters as an example. You can say, I want to have a negative spray wheel width. So then your tram lines will be 20 centimeters. So if I put this to 10, in total, they won't be 3 meters, but 280. But if you are going to do that, keep in mind that you plant your tram lines before you do the rest. It's an option. It's all possible. But for now, I'm just going to leave both of them to 0. And I'm going to put my sprayer width to 27 meters. So now it will match again, because I will show later on, I will show you an isobus spray that I have, and that's 27 meters. So that matches then with my working width. So now I have a sprayer width of 27 centimeters. We continue here, and now I've selected region A as my main region. The next region that I select will automatically be set to a headland. So if I put B, you will see that region B becomes green. So that's when I have selected region A. I will show that in the job, and I drive into region B. My section control will turn off as it's a headland. So now I am able also to add or change my main region. So if I go here, push the pen and paper, I'm able to change my main region. So there's, as you can see, different options. I can set it to a headland. I can give the number of swaths. I can also say change the direction. I can also give it an offset to the field boundary. So for instance, when I want to have my first pass, let's say it like that, I want to have the first 3 meters from the field boundary. I want to seed flowers later on or whatsoever. But I first want to start potato planting. I can say offset to field boundary to 3 meters. So then my first guidance line will be 3 meters plus half a working width from region A. I can also add an extra zone width. However, from here you won't see that very well. And I can also add additional tram lines. So for instance, in the end here, you see that there's too much 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for this last 2 swaths, my sprayer is not wide enough. So then I'm able to add another tram line. Say I want to have a tram line there, and now an additional tram line is added. So that way you can add a tram line if you want. It's also possible to remove a tram line, and now it will automatically change the one I created last. So If I also, that's good to see, add, for instance, a tram line here, it will, so I've added one here. You will also see that it will automatically continue the pattern, then starting from here again. Good to know is that you cannot add a tram line in the first, in this case 4. So you cannot add a tram line before your first tram line from your field boundary. So here's the field boundary, and during the operations plan, or in the previous step, we said that the first, or the SWATs to headland is 4. So the first tram line is 4 SWATs away from the headland. So we defined the first tram line, so it's not possible to add a tram line before the first one. So that's just good to know. So now we're going to change B. I want to have 5 passes. Or sorry, I don't want to have any passes. I just want to have an empty headland, so extra zone width of 5 meters. So now you see there's just 5 meters that will be empty headland because my planter will turn off as I get to the headland. I don't want any tram lines. I can say disable it. That's fine. It's a headland. So this is how I want to have my field, or my headland B. So the next headland that I select will take over the properties of the last edited, in this case B, headland. So now if I press D, it will take over the properties of tramline, or of headland B. So yeah, if I would change things now again in B, then I would select C, then select, or then C would take over those properties again. So yeah, so if I select now C, it will take over the properties again, but I want to have some passes in C because I want to plant on that strange part as well. So I say I want to have 5 passes, and then I want to apply a tram line as well. So as you can see, but I don't want to have that. As you can see, there's still an extra zone width, so it would be possible to have an empty path in here as well for me to drive, for instance, but I don't want to have that. So I don't want to have that extra zone width. So now when I start planting, I start in region A. Now still C is still selected, but I start in region A. I work my way all the way up to there. And then when I have region A fully planted, I switch over to region C, because then I'm able to plant in region C. And that way I can plant the entire field. So now we have created our operations plan. And it's good to know that before you make an operations plan, that you kind of think of what you want to do, because it's difficult to change an operations plan once you have started the job. So that's why it's also called a plan, because in general, you think a little bit about a plan. So please just try and create the field boundaries during the winter, drive over the frost or whatever to create your field boundaries. Try, if that's possible, of course, it should be possible. During this winter, it was a little problematic because it was a little wet, but if possible, try to create those field boundaries in the winter. And then before you want to start planting or seeding, create the operations plans in your office. Just take your terminal to the office. It's possible to do that, and then create your operations plan before you start working. Because then once you're in the field, you don't have to go through all these settings again. So now we accept it. We have potato 24. We've created our operations plan. And now we can go to our job. And then in the operations plan, we can select potato 24. And as you can see, it will now ask you what region do you want to start in. Well, like I said, region A is our main region. So now I select region A and now you will see D, C, and B turn red. So now I start my job and now you can see that we can start planting. Region A selected, my tram lines are there. And now if I wanted to, I can start planting. So now I activate my master switch. I start driving and now we can go planting. Well, I speed up a little bit because otherwise it takes a little bit too long. Ooh, oop, oh, oh, and like I said, my foot's a little heavy today. So now we get to the headland and that's the red area. And as you can see, the section control will stop. And that's also for outside of the field boundary. So you don't, like in the previous job, I didn't have an operations plan, but I created a field boundary. And once we have created a field boundary, the system won't turn on the implement outside of the field boundary unless we overrule it. Otherwise, if we have automatic section control, the system does not turn on outside of the field boundary, or in this case, into the in the headland. So now we're gonna go to here again. And as you can see, it'll turn off as well. So now we pretend like I planted the entire field. I'm not going to do that because that would take me very long time, but I'm just going to pretend I did that. I planted the entire region A. So now what I can do is I again push region C. So now we have planted region A. And now I am able to start planting in region C. So I can do that last. So now the system will slowly guide me over the curved lines to finish up my planting. So now I finished planting, and when I come back, I can select the same operations plan. So when I come back with my ridger or with my halm topper, I can use the same operations plan. So I don't have to change anything or whatsoever, just select the same operations plan. So now we have kind of discussed that part, so with the creation of the operations plan. So now I'm gonna close this job because we have finished planting. So I'm gonna close my job. And now I'm gonna quickly switch around to my isobus implement. I got a sprayer there with me. I have to build it up, build it around. Switch over, plug it in. So this should do the trick. Yes, so now I have a demo sprayer attached. So we go to the UT. That's where all your isobus implements show up. And now you will see here that my sprayer is there. So this is my sprayer. And you will see that sprayer is here. So object pool is loaded. So now we go to the machine garage again. So main menu, machine, and then I push on the back of the tractor again. So this is for drawn implements, but my sprayer is not drawn. It's in the hitch. So we push that button. You can just push on the tractor, and now I disconnect the seeder. And now I mount equipment again. And now I go to the bottom of the list, and there you will see the sprayer. Now do I know it's an isobus sprayer? All the virtual elements can be deleted and can be edited, but an isobus implement cannot be edited, cannot be deleted. As soon as I unplug it from the IBBC on the back of the tractor, it's also gone from the machine garage. So now I connect it, and I'm also not able to change the width or the number of sections because that's all taken from the implement. So I can't change that. If you want to change that, you have to change it into the UT of the implement. So now we go to the next. The same for here. It's all grayed out because I can't change it. It's taken from the UT. And it says here as well, value set in UT. And then we push the green button. And now my sprayer is connected to my tractor. So now we go to the green button, push the green button. If I have an isobus implement that has, for instance, a working width of, let's say, 8 meters, but I want to work with it on 5 meters, I'm able to override it here. But pay attention, when you override it, you have to fill in a value, and then the next time could be still that the enable user override is activated. So if you do it, keep it in mind, deactivate it then again when it's necessary, because now it's grayed out. But if I enable it, I can fill in a value to whatever my liking is. Not going to do that, but just keep that in mind. It's possible to override the working width in that way of the guidance width of an ISO implement. So now we have our isobus sprayer attached. So now we go back to our field we just created with the potatoes. We start a new job with our operations plan, because I want to go spraying in my potatoes in this case. So thus I call it spray potatoes. And then we go next. And now this page becomes important, because in here you gotta give the rate. You gotta give in the rate that the sprayer has to apply. So if I would continue right now, and I would turn on the sprayer and I would turn on our system so that we can apply our product, nothing will happen because the rate is set to 0 liters per hectare. So then the system, so the sprayer thinks, oh, desired rate 0 liters per hectare, going great, I don't have to turn on. So don't go too quickly over this page when you're going with an isobus machine, because you gotta give in the rate. So now I say I want to apply 200 liters. So I push here default set point 200 liters per hectare. And if I want to, I can give in application map, but we won't discuss that now, maybe another time. 200 liters per hectare. And now it will take up that rate. So now we continue. And now if I select region A again, you will see that we can start spraying. Now, is it that we have a nice feature for this? If we go to the job settings, I am able, at the moment it's enabled, to allow the sprayer mode. So at the moment, sprayer mode is enabled. What does the sprayer mode? Oh, wrong line. What does the sprayer mode? If the sprayer mode is enabled, it will only show me the tram lines. However, this only happens when I come back with a machine that's at least 3 times the working width. So in our operations plan, we said that our swath width was 3 meters. So if I come back with an implement that's not at least or 9 meters or even more, then it will only show me the tram lines. So now when I come back with my sprayer, it's really nice that I can only see the tram lines and that I don't have to see all other lines that are present in the system. Of course, when you come back with an with a machine that's, for instance, 18 meters, you want to see every line because otherwise it doesn't match anymore, but then you can just disable the sprayer mode. But for now, I'm just going to leave it enabled because I don't want to see all the other lines. So now what I can do, as it's the CR12, I can say I want to split screen. So now I am also able to see the UT of the sprayer. And I also want to change my widget profile to, in this case, sprayer. But sprayer is more of an ISO implement. So if I have a fertilizer sprayer, I can use the sprayer as well. So now I change it, and now I have some certain isobus widgets or certain widgets that can be useful when working with an isobus machine. So first of all, I start my sprayer. This is my sprayer icon in this case. So I activate the sprayer. Sprayer is now active. And as soon as I start driving, sprayer still won't turn on. How come? The sprayer as well as our master switch both need to be active in order to start spraying. So now when I push our master switch, when I activate it, you will see that the system starts spraying. So now I've activated the guidance as well. So now our system starts spraying. What do we see more? We see here the product rate. So the rate, how much is desired. So we said we want to spray 200 liters. And how much is the actual rate? At the moment, it's 199. If I push it once, 2 arrows will pop up. And if I hold it again, a menu will pop up and it will show you the bump value. So in this case, I put it up to 50. What does it mean? Every time I push this button, the rate, the desired rate, will go up 50 liters or down 50 liters. So that way you can change the rate to whatever you like. What else do we see? So we have the rate that we can change and the actual rate, and you can see it in here as well. So the actual and desired. We also have our section status. So here you see the top one in this case is the status. So what sections, if I move around, you can probably see it. What sections are active and what sections are not active. So at the moment, section 9 is not active, and you can see that. And the other sections are active. The one on the bottom, that's a switch box. So we can use that to overrule the section or the section control. So at the moment it's blue, and when it's blue, it means that the section control is done automatically. So On the left side is the master switch, and then here are all the individual sections. So for instance, when you are working with a fertilizer spreader, you are done. You created coverage everywhere in the field, but you wanna empty out the fertilizer spreader. Well, normally when you have section control active, it's not possible to do that because it won't let you be activated and drive over the covered area. It is of course possible to disable the section control. However, it's then also possible to just push this button. Now they are all red, all sections are red. So it means that wherever you're driving, it doesn't matter where you're driving, it won't ever turn on, never. And if I push it again, all the sections will always stay on. So even when you're outside the field boundaries, you're now overruling the section control. So it doesn't matter where you're driving. If you're driving over covered area already, the section control will still stay on. So now I'm creating some coverage. So it could be that, like I said, you want to empty out, then this would be an option. It's also possible if, for instance, you are at a spot and I don't know, you want to go a little bit outside the field boundary. Please don't spray in waterways. That's not, yeah, people don't get happy from that. But I don't know, you want to go somewhere that's just outside your field boundary, or it's a neighboring field that you want to go. You can then also enable the outer two sections to always stay on, as you can see here. So now, yeah, I'm not a good of a driver at the moment, but now I would be able to drive on the side of my field boundary and spray a little bit on my neighboring field as well if I want to. So in that, there's also some options in manually overruling the section control. Make sure you put it back to blue again if you want to do it automatically. So now it's all automatically again. We then also have another option. It's when, for instance, you are backing up into a corner and it could be that your sprayer doesn't get a velocity right away. What happens then in the corner? It doesn't measure velocity because you're accelerating and it won't start spraying right away. We then have the option, this button here, to overrule it for, in this case, oh, if I push it, it will overrule the section control for 5 seconds. So now you can see the system has velocity and I am able to continue spraying. So with this button, we can overrule the section control for a short period of time. In this case, it's set to 5 seconds. And as you can see, this button has a little corner taken in again. So if I push it, a menu will open. And these are the section control settings. So by pushing that button or holding that button, you can open up the section control menu. Otherwise, you can also go to the main menu and then you can go to the section control. Oh, I got a question. I see that we have a question. So to activate the sprayer mode or deactivate the sprayer mode, because that's the question, we go to job settings. And then in job settings, in the main menu, job settings, we can find the option allow sprayer mode. So we can enable that if we want to have that, or we can disable it when it's undesired to have that. And that's in here and as well and in other menus. If you don't know what it exactly means anymore, there's this help button. So what does the sprayer mode? it'll show you what the sprayer mode does. So if you push the help button, you will get information on what each of these features does. So that's where you can find the allow sprayer mode. So to get back, in the main menu we have the section control, settings, and here I can change certain settings, not all of them, for section control. And I can also here, if I just deactivate this button, so disable it, my entire section control will be disabled. Good to know. The next setting is zero speed turn off. So as soon as I stop, or almost as soon in this case, there's a little, of course, delay sometimes for the sprayer. But as you can see, as soon as I stop, oh, this is not a good spot. Takes a couple of seconds because there's a delay in the sprayer, of course. My sections will turn off. If I say section control, zero speed turn off, I disable that, then my sections will stay on, so my sprayer will keep spraying despite the fact that I've come to a standstill. So that's not always desired. When is this desired? It's desired when you, for instance, nowadays modern weeders sometimes come with section control. And you don't want that when you stop weeding to check on your work that your weeding elements lift up. So it could be desired then to disable the zero speed turn off. But when you're spraying or when you're spreading fertilizer, you want to have the zero speed turn off activated. Then we also have the on look ahead and the off look ahead. And when you have an isobus implement, you cannot change these because these values, we get these values from the UT. So if you want to change those, you have to go to the UT and then change them into the UT of the machine. And that's also with distances. So the distance from the boom to the rear axle or the width of the boom. Every distance measurement, if you want to change those, you have to do that in the implement. You can't change it on our side. So we have some other values: entering overlap, exiting overlap, boundary percentage overlap. I can imagine that it's hard to know what all of those values mean, and I can tell it to you, but probably because since I've told you a lot already, I can imagine that it's a lot to take in. And that's why I also say with this, if you push the help button here, each of these settings will be explained with a short text and a schematic overview on what it does. So for instance, if you want to know what the exiting overlap does, the exiting overlap is distance the sections are opened before the to be sprayed area is entered in meters. So that's a schematics is then shown for each of these values. So if you want to change any of the values, but you don't know what, or you see that your work is not as good as you want to be, and you have an idea of where you want to change it, you can just go here, see which schematic matches with what you want to change, and then you can say, oh, I want to change the boundary percentage turn off. So how much overlap with the boundary? Or I want a coverage percentage turn off. So how much percentage overlap is allowed with the coverage? So by pushing help, you get a little bit more information during or when you're working with machine in the field. So you don't have to look it up. You just push help and then you can see from each setting what it does. So that's in a nutshell on how to work with ISO bus implements and also on working on the tram lines. I just wanted to show you one more thing because we've created a lot of coverage by now, so that's real nice. All right. So now I push the big button again. And I just wanted to show you on the layers. So if I go top view, and now I select the layers and I select direction, I'm able to see the direction I have been driving in. When that's also possible for the velocity and the altitude. When do you want to use this, for instance? When you are weeding, let's say it like that. So when I'm weeding today, I'm driving east-west as an example, and tomorrow I want to go against it. I enable the product or the layer for the direction, and then I can see the direction I'm driving in. So that's what I'm seeing now. So tomorrow when I come back, what I do is I close my job. It's tomorrow. So yesterday we weeded the entire field. I start a new job. Today I'm going to weed again. It's a busy field. It's just an example. So since we haven't created coverage today, but I want to see the direction in that the direction I was driving yesterday, is I want to go right against the direction. I go to my product maps and then I push the plus, and with the plus I'm able to show me product or the layers, so the layers, direction, velocity layers that I created in a previous job. Now I said direction, I said spray potatoes, and now it'll show me, if I go from the top view, it'll show me how I was driving yesterday. So that's when you say you want to do a plus. Otherwise, if I would have chosen it here, it wouldn't show anything because I did not create any coverage today. So therefore, I need to do the plus to get the coverage created in previous jobs for my direction or my velocity and so on. One more thing that I forgot to mention. So now we've discussed the creation of fields and working with isobus machines. I was planning on doing that at the start, but I forgot. In the UT, you can find information on the RS1. So now I've selected the RS1. And then today I'm driving on my T6 and tomorrow I'm driving on my T8. What I have to do is I go to the gears and then say change profile. And at the moment I don't have another profile available, but then I can push the button on, for instance, if this is my T6 profile, I change profiles for the RS1 here because that's important, because each tractor requires its own profile for the best performance of your steering system. So hopefully I was able to provide you with some information on CRx. My idea was to leave it for now, because I think I've provided you with a lot of information, and I hope you will be able to use it. And I hope you all have a great seeding season with the weather ahead and with the time ahead. Good luck, everyone. And I want to thank you for your attention. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them. That's still possible. Chat is still open. And otherwise, have a great evening. And the session will be set on YouTube soon. All right. Thank you very much. And good luck.